Welcome in our next episode. Today I'm having a special guest, Marleen Somoharjo. In this episode, we are going to tap deeper regarding the risk management. So talking about the financial, women in business, and how to get the best out of the whole strategy and the business concept. Welcome you in my podcast. I'm very happy and delighted to have you today.
Thank you, Cornelia. Thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here and talk to you and also your audience. So I'm being introduced to your audience. So much honored. Thank you for having me.
Marleen Somohardjo is having a business economy background. She's the business consultant, business owner, more than 10 years in the industry, and she specializes in the risk management. Marleen, when we meet in one of the meetings in Global Women, I think it was in Amsterdam, I immediately knew that I'm going to talk to you, and we connected very quickly. And can you share with us what was the primary goal why you decided to go with your business and creating M2 Advisory?
Yes, obviously, I would love to. So I started my business, and journey started 13 years ago, but that did not started with M2 Advisory. It just started with the Marleen Somohardjo Interim Management and Consultancy. That is my first business. And in between, in 2014, I started M2 Advisory in Suriname. And the last one, M2 Advisory, has been registered in the Kingdom of Bahrain, and that is 3 years ago. So it started just all with serving the client more end to end and delivering a more value base, so bringing more value to the customer by serving them in a niche. And the niche market in this is the governance, financial and risk management, and also program management strategy, where it really has to do with how do I approach an assignment. And from that perspective, risk management is very important in this because I would like to advocate and like to create more awareness what risk management can do in such a way that you can sustain and create longevity for your organization.
Yeah, this is very awesome, and this is very interesting subject because it's quite difficult to identify the risk. I know you have also experience. I mean, after the graduation, you also work for the big companies. I mean, especially for KPMG, where you also get your experience in that area. So, can you share with our audience why risk management and what is important in that aspect, and especially in your expertise to focusing more and supporting your clients from the risk management?
It's a very good question. I think it's very important to see how risk management is very much correlated with your financial management, so being profitable. And I always say, you don't start your business to stay in business for only one day. You would like to stay for a longer period in time just to be successful. And how do you do that? That is just focusing on what can happen as an event. So taking risk management or risk analysis into consideration and reserve capital for that. So when it does occur, you have the financial stability to respond to that. So that is why, and that is the basic mindset from risk management. But obviously, you already mentioned it. When I graduated as a business economic from the Erasmus University in Rotterdam, I started my career at KPMG, and that was a very good way of understanding how risk management, especially coming from an audit point of view. I worked for the advisory services, but from an audit point of view, it was very clear how risk management is important within your balance sheet or your P&L, and also within the cash flow that we're creating in these. So I was always very much intrigued with the balance sheet, for example, within the financial sector. You see how assets there are being converted into extremely extraordinary profits, but it all has to do with how their risk management is in place and how it's embedded within the organization. And that is how I would like to approach every market in this, because my specialty is within financial sector, but within every sector you can use this tooling, how it's being applied within financial sector, also with other sectors. So that is what I think is very important, and just not approach it only from an operational point of view, but from a strategic point of view, tactical overview, and then also implement it within your operations. I think those are a very important element that we all will need to take into consideration. And last year has shown us that how risk management is very important if you have that in place, just to pivot your business and to sustain.
Yeah, absolutely. Last year and even this year, it was very challenging, especially for the pivoting the businesses. But my question would be, Marleen, do we need a crisis, or is it something which you might give as advice to our business owners, our listeners, to look inside of the corporate from inside on the risk management? Because we know we have the financial background, and we know the risk could appear inside the organization from the management point of view, and also outside. So dealing with those two different type of risk, what will be your response as advisory?
Very good question. It is. Let me put it like that. It is what happened last year was, even though within the financial sector you have seen that this has not been calculated within the risk models. So the pandemic as such was not a risk indicator or taken within the risk model. So that's a very interesting thing that happened last year. So you can imagine when this is within an organization that is very highly regulated, very embedded within the organization risk management, and still it was not taken within the risk indicators. So from that perspective, you can imagine how other business need to pivot around this, and it all has to do with how do you see your macroeconomic position, or all the trends that are coming from a macroeconomic position, how they impact your organization. So, for example, we have the pandemic, but now we have the climate crisis, or crisis is not, but how you see that climate is just changing rapidly. So insurance also needs to take that into consideration. But you also have the trend of the digitalization, which is not a trend anymore. It's a necessity. Everyone works from home right now. And I think personally, post-COVID or post-pandemic, it will be more a hybrid version. People will be, I think, for 2 days in the office, and the other days will be working from home. So still from that is still a digital area that we're entering, and new economies are arising from this. So it's very important to see not only a crisis is needed, but it's very important. That's what I also said in the beginning. From a strategic point of view, taking your risk into consideration, what can happen from your macroeconomic perspective, impacted in a microeconomic environment, taking that into consideration, calculate that and quantify that will just give you a certain sense of how your capital adequacy can be applied within your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. You touched very important point regarding digitalization. Everything is right now digitalized. So if we tap into the micro economy, what is happening in the company or in the organization inside. I know your company is very digitalized. You're having a software which is helping also your client to navigate. Can you say more how that one is? What I'm trying to get is more in terms of KPIs, navigation, because we know if we want to go and drive our company towards goal, toward our vision, we need to have kind of GPS system in place. And I know because we discussed that one, your company is also having this kind of knowledge how to navigate. Can you say a little bit more about that aspect, especially for the business owners or corporate or companies who are would like to tap more and see?
Yes, I developed a 5-pillar framework intelligence around this, and I also wrote an ebook about this. But it just captures in methodology, a 3-step methodology, how you can implement 5 pillars that just focus on integrating your financial risk management from an overarching perspective. So the methodology is as such. It takes you first to assess what is your strategic goals, what are your business objectives, and what are your performances. And the second step in this is how you implement this. So then now we're coming towards more the KPIs. What would you like to implement and how would you like to excel in this? And the third element is the measurement. So that is directly correlated with your KPIs. What is needed, what needs to be improved, and how can you elevate your performance in this? So that is the methodology behind this. And then we have the pillars. And the pillar shows you to what extent do you need to think about a growth strategy, or what is needed from a total comprehensive overview, taking all C-suite or managing board into consideration, and then have the idea of having your risk and financial management in place in order to elevate your processes.
Yeah, this is really awesome, because in the whole process, the holistic view, it's really key, and I fully understand what you are trying to emphasize, giving this 5 pillars tool. Marleen, I would like to get from your experience, what are typical obstacles which your clients are having? So, which you can give a little bit indication to our listeners where they should check or identify if the area in their business are working well, and where they should focus more. And of course, they can look on your 5 pillars. But based on the experience, what are the main challenges with which companies and your clients facing right now?
So right now, I think it's all about how was I capable in pivoting my business. So how was I actually capable? In other words, did I had a plan B to respond to the market when everything disrupted last year? Well, I think lots of businesses are now overcoming, or everything is more embedded. But this way of embedding was not calculated within your strategic goals or your business objective. So you can really see the difference there within your balance sheet, whether your strategic goals are on track or not. So that is the first thing that I think that people can see, or whether they're on track or not, whether they envision this and have their processes in place. And taking that from a financial point of view, are you still capable in producing or generating your profits as how you did that before? So that is very important in this. Is the profitability the same? Are the profit margins the same? Am I still capable with the cash flow that is coming from the operational cash flow? Can I still invest to improve my process in this? So that is the pivoting part in this. What I also see is that being the whole situation with globalization is now taking back a little bit more to localization. We're still doing business across the borders though, but the main focus is to have everything in-house, in place, and from there on start building again to end. But when you're trapped within the dependency, within the value chain, you really need to rethink or readjust your business. So that is also a very important part. And I think also strategic alliance are very important in this. Were you capable last year of still doing everything, in-housing everything by yourself, or did you need to outsource things? So I see the challenges within businesses focusing whether they would like to grow by themselves, so autonomous, or are they allying more, or are they tending to have more strategic alliances? And for another aspect, but that is something that I actually saw, and that is the reasoning behind and the rationale behind creating this 5 pillar, is to what extent is the data available for good decision making and fast decision making. So is the data being enriched or cleansed in such a way that it's easy to understand, and it's reflected, or does it reflect our strategic goals? You still find that companies are not capable in just understanding their business data. Even though we're going more towards digitalization era, that means that we're becoming more data driven. Businesses are still struggling with being seen as a data-driven organization and understanding their business data. So those are the elements that I see, and I see people struggling with that.
Yes, this is what I could also relate to that, because every business decision, they are coming from the data. And what would be your advice in that aspect in terms of business-driven aspects? So first you will give to the business owner tips in terms of good understanding of the business data before making the decision. So what I'm trying to understand, what would be your approach in terms of decision making? So because all the changes, they're coming to the decision. You can keep buying the time till you will be ready with your decision, or you rather advocate of making relatively quick decisions. So what would be your response in that one? Because we know in the corporate, decision might be taking long process in place when you can miss the opportunity in the market, yeah? But at the same time, what is the sweet point where we can gain at the same good understanding of the data and having in place the good decision-making process? What would be your advice in that aspect if the company is still having that challenge in terms of data understanding?
No, very good question, Cornelia. We both have a financial background. So we know that if we would look, for example, at the balance sheet or the P&L, we know that that is actually backward-looking data that we're returning. But it comes down all thinking about how is data reflected within our internal, how do we see the data as being an internal client or an external client? And those elements need to be combined within your strategic goals. And if you have that, you have the data for that just as your steering point, then you can combine that if your financial results are reflected within that. So it all has to do with what is your goal, what would you like to achieve, where is the data coming from. It also comes from an internal point of view. So your internal, being a large corporate, for example, we both work for a large corporate, we know that we also need to see our internal departments as internal clients. So that is also data that is giving us, that can make us speed up the process in decision making, or at least we can just bring back the data even faster to our external. And the external data, to my opinion, will become from your customer experience or your customer value in this. But it's very important to just understand how you need to react to the market to this. Otherwise, your competitors will do that, and that will just give you that will lose your head start to your competitors.
Yeah, absolutely. Marleen, what about the organization changes? Because we both know sometimes if the business is shifting or pivoting, requires organization changes. What will be your advice in that aspect? How the business owner should look for the organization changes from that angle. Of course, we have our KPIs, we have our strategic goals, we know where we want to go, but at the same time, we need to fine-tune the operational system, the whole organization itself. So what would be your response into that, especially dealing with your clients? Of course, being, looking from advisory perspective, what would be your advice? Rather gradually or rather quick? What would be the aspects which you would like to highlight it from your point of view?
That's important because it's very important how the customer, our customer, would like to be perceived within the market. So coming from an expert point of view, coming within an organization, I think my point of view would always be that you need to adapt as quickly as possible. Otherwise, you're losing compatible market in this. But on the other hand, is the company capable in doing so? So is the operations available, or is operations ready to do so? And that is the real gap between moving very quickly and just not moving in a certain pace that can help you still remain your position within the market. I think from an organization perspective, everything needs to be organized and structured and governed in such a way that you're able to be flexible, that you can scale up easily, that you have your processes in place, that you know that where are the efficiencies within, so that you can just take it to a next level. But that unfortunately is not how organizations are organized. And you quite often see that it's been organized as just you have the head office and then you have everything in between, or you have just reorganizations in between, and then just the boundary shifting, and also that you see that the activities are being taken place with same departments, but just with another label attached to that. So it's very important to analyze what is the customer, what is the organization all about, and what is their strategic goals in this, and to what extent are they capable, so in what level actually of the life cycle of the business is the organization, and are they capable to just adapt to go to a next phase, or just innovate easier. It's a difficult question, I think, and it really depends on what is the strategy, and what is, and how is the organization capable with their people, but also with their infrastructure in doing so.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. It's not easy answer, and this is what companies are really struggling. What is really the best optimal setup, especially delivering the value to the clients, because at the end, we need to have happy clients, clients who are paying for our services, paying for our business products whatsoever. And to do that in an excellent way is not easy. That's why we're having consultants, that's why we're having experts who might share and give our advices. Marleen, what about shifting a little bit from the corporate into small organizations, to the one who want to pivot, who want to not pivot it, scaling up. Let's put it that way, scaling up. What are you see from your experience? Because I know you are serving big corporate, but at the same time, you are advising into the companies who want to scale up, So what would be your primary advice into them? Because most often we know it, that time will come when they need expertise, when they need advisory. So what will be your advice to those who might think they don't need it, but at the end they need it just to go faster and more effective way in terms of scaling up? What would be your advice in this aspect? I know you mentioned 5 pillars, but maybe if you can take from these 5 pillars something which could be applicable for the scaling up organizations.
Yes, I also would like to just give myself as an example in this. When I started my business in 2008, that was just during the financial crisis. But that was just within the financial sector. So, was that a good decision? Well, in the end, it was. But then at that point, it was very difficult. But still, I think the focus was just having your strategic goals and knowing what is the path that you would like to walk in. This is you need to have that very clear in mind. And when I started to scale up, that was actually when I came to a point that the business was slowing down and it needed to innovate. So when you come to this point that you find that the business is just you're serving your business, but it's not as effective as it would be, you need to find strategic alliance in this. And when you're ready with your business within the strategic alliance in this, then you're capable of scaling up. So I think for when scaling up is your ambition, is your objective, and you need to have 2 elements from the pillar taken into consideration. What are my core competence? And is the core competence still serving the client? If not, you need to innovate, obviously, or you need to adjust, but if it's so, you need to cater for an infrastructure or management structure that is capable of delivering and is capable of just handling this growth that you had in mind, that is scaling up in this process. So I think from 2 elements, as I said, it's very clear to have your strategic goals in point. And even though when you're starting or you're in a situation that you feel that you're encountering hardship, it's still very important to focus on what is your mission and your vision and what would you like to accomplish. And taken from the pillars perspective, what are your core competences? Do you need to focus on that? As I said, I saw that the management service that I was delivering was not adequate enough. That is the reason for the 5 pillars. That is the reason for a web-based platform solution that people can just enter and just focus on having their own controls and just appointing someone internal and doing so, and not being depending on only externals. That is also a very important message that I would like to give. Do not make yourself very dependent. Advice is very important, obviously, because sometimes you're just too much within your own sector and thinking, and then when someone can help you with that, that's very important. But you also need to just stay with your core competence and just knowing what you would like to bring to the market. And just that is believing in what are you bringing, what are your core values, and what is the infrastructure that that gives this opportunity to doing so.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also mentioned innovation. I think these days, digitalization, innovation, plus the core values, this is basically the recipe, if we could call it like this, for the scaling up and for the success. So, Marleen, thank you very much for sharing that. I know, and I'm very grateful that you bring your case as an example when you visualize how you came up from the scaling up and what are the elements based on your example, because you are growing. What is the next appetite for the Marleen? I know you are already in the Bahrain. Headquarter for your company is in Amsterdam. Bahrain is the next one. But I know that you're having also appetite for another part of the world. What is it and why is actually that direction?
It really has come to do with, like I said, we're really working with strong partnerships in ICT in this, and creating strong alliances, and that is just more coming from Asia. And I always envisioned having something within Singapore because I really love the environment, the vibrant, being very, what do you call it? It's very central, but still very open-minded. It's everything. It's a city. It's everything in. But it really has this very outward-looking focus, and that is what I think that the service that we're bringing as M2 Advisory is very suitable, especially they're showcasing their leadership in innovation. And from that point of view, I think M2 Advisory is a perfect match in this. And also just having the alignments with Asia, that is just the next natural step actually doing so. Because that is just that should be the center of our operations in this. So Singapore for me would be definitely something that I would like to be established by.
It's awesome. It's really awesome to listen because I was very delighted reading your article, which was in the Business London magazine. That's why I said, you know what, I need to have that lady in my podcast, interview you and share with our audience the experience. So if our listeners like the whole episode, like the whole channel, please subscribe, please put the likes, which give me and our guest the chance to do more such interviews and share the knowledge and share the experience. So I'm very grateful, Marleen, to having you here in my channel, in my episodes, and I'm wishing you a lot of success and we stay in touch. So we are going to also link your website and also your 5 pillars ebook. Is it anything which you would like to share, which is you are having in the coming months with the audience, or where we can also find you? That will be also very important for us to, if you could share.
Yes, well, you can find me on my website, that is www.m2advisory.nl. You can follow me on Instagram for M2 Advisory and on LinkedIn, Marleen Somohardjo. Those are the platforms that you can find me. Within a couple of months, I'm thinking about just introducing and launching courses. Just also from the framework thinking how you can implement the framework intelligence within your organization to create more financially viability and also focus on sustainable solutions. So that is, I think, within now and 2 months will be available. And also collaborations with lovely people that is just, we cannot say anything about this right now, but it's there and we're working on this. But I think for just to follow me, for now, I would like to take the chance to thank you for having me here. It was a lovely conversation.
Yeah.
And I really look forward to see you again.
Yeah, thank you very much. A lot of success and we stay in touch. Talk to you.
Thank you.